Okay, so today we're going to tackle a really interesting one, the 1981 film The French Lieutenant's Woman. Now, this is a film that tried to do the impossible, really. It took on a novel that was famous for being, well, unfilmable. It talks directly to the reader, it has multiple endings, it's constantly telling you, hey, this is a story I'm making up, so how on earth do you turn that into a movie? Well, let's get into it. And it all starts with this incredible image. I mean, it's one of the most famous shots in cinema, right? You've got this lone figure in a dark cloak standing on this old stone pier, just staring out into a coming storm. And right away, in that one single haunting shot, you get this feeling of deep, deep mystery. And also, this quiet strength, this defiance.
So that image just hangs there, right? And it makes you ask, who is she? What's her story? And answering that question, well, it's not simple. The film doesn't just give you a straightforward Victorian romance. Oh no, it gives you that, plus a whole other love affair happening in modern times, all woven together. It's this complex story about love, scandal, and what it even means to tell a story in the first place. But to really get how the movie works, we gotta go back to where it all started, the book.
All right, Section 1, the unfilmable Victorian novel. Yeah, to really get what the film was trying to do, we have to talk about the source material. John Fowles' novel from 1969 was completely groundbreaking. This was not your typical corsets and carriages period piece. Fowles was playing a much, much bigger game.
So, the book falls into this category that critics call historiographic metafiction. Whoa, sounds complicated, right? But it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. It's a historical story that knows it's a story. Fowles is writing in the 60s, but he's writing about the 1860s, and he's constantly reminding you of that fact. It's like the book keeps turning to you, the reader, and winking, saying, this is all made up, right?
So what exactly made people call it unfilmable? Well, for starters, Fowles was constantly breaking the rules. He would just stop the story cold to talk directly to you, the reader. He'd draw these wild comparisons between, say, Victorian sexual hang-ups and the whole free love thing happening in the 60s. He even, and this is a big one, he even wrote himself into the book as a character. And of course, the most famous part, he gives you a couple of different endings to choose from. How do you film that?
And what Fowles did so brilliantly was mess with our idea of what an author is supposed to be. He starts off playing the part of the classic Victorian author, the all-knowing, godlike narrator who controls everything. Like he says in this quote, the novelist stands next to God. But then, bam, he pulls the rug out from under you. He pulls back the curtain and shows you it's all a construction. And he says his characters have a life of their own, that even he can't control them.
Okay, Pinter's postmodern solution. So this is the million-dollar question, right? How do you film an author's little side notes and direct comments? The job went to the legendary Harold Pinter, and what he came up with was just genius.
So Pinter's big idea was this: forget the narrator. Instead, he created a whole separate story that runs alongside the main one. So you're not just watching the Victorian romance between Sarah and Charles, at the same time, you're also watching the two modern-day actors who are playing them, Anna and Mike, as they have their own affair while making the movie. It's a story within a story.
And this structure is it's incredible. It creates this amazing dance between the past and the present. The modern story isn't just a frame for the old one. It actually comments on it. It questions it. It gives it this whole other layer of meaning. And the Victorian story does the same for the modern one. They're constantly in conversation with each other.
So, Section 3, Victorian repression versus modern freedom. This is really where that dual narrative starts to pay off, because it lets the film put these two totally different worlds of love and relationships right up against each other.
So on one hand, you have Sarah Woodruff. Look at her there. She is completely trapped by the super strict, suffocating rules of Victorian society. Everyone calls her a fallen woman, a disgrace. But what's so brilliant is that she takes that label, that scandal, and she learns how to use it. It becomes her only source of power, a way to be independent in a world that gives her no freedom.
And then you have Anna, the actress playing Sarah. This is in the 1980s. Her affair with Mike, her co-star, is so different. It's casual, it's fleeting. There aren't these massive, life-destroying consequences like there are for Sarah and Charles. And the film uses this to show, the freedom we have now, but also maybe the shallowness that can come with it. This idea is captured so perfectly in the Victorian part of the story. You have Charles, who thinks he's so modern and progressive. He's a Darwinist, for crying out loud. But he just can't shake that old-school patriarchal need to possess Sarah. He's drawn to what this scholar calls her secret energy, her intelligence. But what he really wants is to own it, to consume it. And Sarah, well, she's not having any of it.
And this gets us back to that whole multiple endings problem from the book. Here's Pinter's brilliant solution. He just gives each story its own ending. The Victorian lovers, Sarah and Charles, they get the big, romantic, Hollywood-style reconciliation. It's hopeful and beautiful. But the modern couple, Anna and Mike, their affair just ends. It's cold, it's sudden, it's final. Two very different fates for two very different eras.
All right, next up, a deep critical divide. Now you can probably guess that a movie this cerebral, this unconventional, was not going to be a hit with everybody. And you'd be right. When it came out in 1981, it split critics right down the middle. I mean, they were deeply divided.
On the one hand, you had a lot of people who absolutely loved it. They thought it was a genius way to capture the spirit of the book. For them, Pinter's script wasn't a betrayal at all, but a really clever translation of the novel's ideas into the language of film. But on the other hand, a lot of people found it cold and honestly kind of pretentious. You have to remember, this is 1981. For most people, going to the movies was about escape, about getting lost in a story. This postmodern stuff, where the film is constantly reminding you it's a film, it just shatters that illusion. It felt cold and distant because it never really lets you get emotionally invested. And get this, even Meryl Streep herself said she wasn't happy with her performance. She felt like that artificial structure, that constant jumping back and forth, kept her at a distance and made it hard for her to really truly live inside the characters. I mean, that's pretty telling, isn't it?
But, hey, even with all that controversy, you can't say the film was a failure. Not at all. From an awards perspective, it did really well. We're talking 5 Oscar nominations, including 1 for Streep and 1 for Pinter's screenplay. And Meryl Streep actually won the BAFTA and the Golden Globe for Best Actress. So clearly, a lot of people thought it worked.
So let's talk about its legacy, an enduring cinematic experiment. You've got this huge divide, right? Is it a brilliant adaptation or just a cold intellectual exercise? And you know what? That debate is its legacy. The fact that we're still talking about it, still arguing about it, is what makes it so important. It forces us to ask some really big questions about what we want from a story. And I just love this. This really sums it all up. Look at the cover art for the Criterion release. Sarah's face is literally made out of words, out of text. It's such a perfect metaphor for the whole movie. She's a character built from the stories other people tell about her, and just as importantly, from the stories she tells about herself.
So, in the end, The French Lieutenant's Woman is so much more than just another period drama. It's a really bold, really brave experiment in how to tell a story on film. It makes you think about, well, about the nature of stories themselves, about the tricks and the artifice involved, and about the incredible challenge of taking the soul of a book and putting it up on the big screen.
And that leaves us with this big, juicy question that people are still arguing about today. When you're adapting a classic book, what do you think matters more? Being totally faithful to every single word, or reinventing it, finding a new way to tell that story for the screen? It's a tough one.